Bring out the tissues, sweethearts. Sometimes the happiest endings are just better beginnings in disguise. Let's raise a glass to love that's worth drawing and worth living. Chapter 27. Drawing Forever. 1 year later.
You're going to be late to your own wedding.
Maya called through the cabin door.
Though I have to admit, that would make an excellent final panel.
Darcy smiled at her tablet screen, her finger hovering over the post button. It had been almost a year since she'd ended Dating Disasters, with what everyone thought was the final strip. Her cartoon self finding love in the snow, a moose playing matchmaker. Her publisher had called it perfect. Her fans had swooned. Even Pablo had seemed impressed. But today deserved one last update. One final panel.
A wedding day special.
She typed.
Because some disasters turn into destinies.
The new strip was simple. That same first encounter by the frozen lake. But now the panel spiraled outward like a snow flurry, showing moments through their year together. Callum teaching her to ride. Pablo claiming the stable as his second kingdom. Their first Christmas together. Then spring, summer, fall, and now. The final panel pulled back to show them under mistletoe, surrounded by Christmas lights and love. Just like they would be in a few minutes. Her notification bar immediately exploded.
Artistic soul. OMG, is this real?
Lovejoy. Crying in my coffee or in hashtag dating disasters forever.
Serpent Heart. Wait, are they getting married today?
Art reflecting life. Or maybe life reflecting art.
Almost done.
She called back.
Just signing off.
Dear readers,
She typed.
some disasters turn out to be beginnings in disguise. Some falls lead to flying. And sometimes the happiest endings aren't endings at all. They're just better chapters waiting to be drawn.
Pablo wound around her ankles, his crystal food bowl long since replaced by one handcrafted from mountain pine. He wore a tiny bow tie for the occasion, though he'd made his feelings about formal wear quite clear during the fitting.
Ready?
Maya poked her head in, resplendent in her maid of honor dress.
Because your mountain man is doing that adorable nervous photography thing again. Pretty sure Rose has enough ceremony setup shots to fill 3 albums.
Darcy stood smoothing her simple white dress. Through the window she could see the lodge decked out for Christmas, wreaths and lights transforming it into something magical. The same observation deck where Callum had first shown her his photos was now an altar, dusted with fresh snow.
He's photographing everything?
She smiled, remembering their first morning in his cabin, when he'd finally started believing in new beginnings.
Everything.
Maya grinned.
Though he keeps coming back to that spot by the lake, where a certain cat tried to fight a certain moose.
Some moments deserve to be captured.
Darcy gathered her bouquet. Pine and winter roses, tied with ribbon the exact green of Callum's eyes. The lodge's great room had been transformed. Fairy lights twinkled everywhere. Mistletoe hung from every doorway, and there, waiting at the end of the aisle, stood Callum. His camera lay forgotten at his side as he watched her approach, his eyes crinkling at the corners in that way that still made her heart skip. Rose sniffled loudly from the front row, her phone documenting everything. Edward beamed beside his latest, decidedly fireproof sculpture. And there, under the Christmas tree, a moose peered through the window as if checking on the happy ending it had accidentally started.
Hi.
Darcy whispered as she reached Callum.
Hi.
His smile was soft.
Ready for the next chapter?
As long as you promise to keep catching me.
Always.
He touched the tablet she still held.
Though maybe put the comic down for the ceremony?
But the lighting is perfect.
She teased.
Think of the content possibilities.
His laugh was everything she'd ever tried to capture in her panels. Everything she'd learned to live instead of just draw.
I love you,
he said simply.
I love you too.
She handed Maya her tablet.
Even if you did make me wait a whole year to turn you into my final comic panel.
Had to make sure you got my good side,
he teased.
For artistic accuracy, was it worth the wait?
Worth everything.
As they said their vows under the mistletoe, Pablo watched regally from his cushioned seat, clearly taking credit for the whole arrangement. Snow fell softly outside, and somewhere in the distance, a moose called to its mate. Some happy endings, Darcy realized, didn't need to be drawn. They just needed to be lived. Together. Comments loading.
Happily, ever after 88. OMG, the perfect finale. Hashtag crying.
Moose Maven. can't believe it started with a moose. Hashtag Pine Lake Love.
Artistic soul. Anyone else zoom in on that handmade ring? Those mountains engraved on it? Hashtag love.
Comic Queen. The best stories are the ones that come true. Congrats, Didi girl.
Darcy closed her laptop on the flood of responses, turning to her new husband.
Ready to start for real?
Already started.
He murmured against her lips.
The moment you fell into my life.
And for once, she didn't need to capture the moment. She just lived it. Perfectly.